The Atlanta Braves got swept this weekend by the last place Baltimore Orioles, which should put a nail in the coffin for 2025. Here's what they need to do to contend in 2026. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Monday, July 7th. Your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. A lot of content from over the weekend. We had the news roundup on Saturday. We did today's three things for all three losses, talking about what happened immediately after it was done, and providing a convenient link to the postcast if you want to go listen to me, Jake Mastriani, talk about what happened. We're going to get to 2026. I wrote a whole newsletter this morning. I think it was somewhere around 1,600 words about what you have to do, and that's going to be the bulk of this show. But I do want to talk about the weekend, because it was familiar ways to lose. Across the entire weekend, despite the fact they tried a bullpen game one day, despite the fact they finally benched Marcell Ozuna and had both catchers in at DH on a day, the story here was the same. They scored 9 runs across all 3 games. Only 3 of them came on something other than a home run. They went 3 for 23 with runners in scoring position. And at the end of the day, it's the same story that we've gotten every single game. The Atlanta Braves just are not good enough on offense to beat even a last place team in the Baltimore Orioles. Thinking back to Friday night, 3-2 loss. The second inning, Marcell Ozuna walks, Drake Baldwin gets hit by a pitch. What else? Charlie Morton curveball in the foot. Okay. So runners on first and second, no outs. Ozzie Albies strikes out. Michael Harris pops up. Somehow, it was a sinker at the bottom of the zone, and he somehow got way underneath it. But anyway, he pops out. Nick Allen strikes out. Inning over. They don't score any runs. You look at the bottom of the third. Similar story. Ronald Acuna gets a single, advances to third on a double to left by Austin Riley. And then Jurickson Profar strikes out. Marcell Ozuna flies out to right. Atlanta never got another at-bat with a runner in scoring position the rest of Friday's game. It doesn't matter that Spencer Strider pitched well. You're not going to win when you have that situation. Saturday was one of the rare days they scored a bunch of runs. It was 9-6. The game ended up going to extras, but the bottom of the 6th was where Atlanta lost the game. Scott Blewett, pitching for the Orioles, loaded the bases with no outs. Nick Allen had a single. Ronald Acuna Jr. walked. Matt Olson walked. You're like, okay, top of the order here. No outs. Bases loaded. Turns out Scott Blewett was pitching around those guys. Austin Riley strikes out on 3 pitches. One of them is a 95-mile-an-hour fastball in the heart of the plate that he swings through. Jurickson Profar, weak grounder to short. It was so weak that Gunnar Henderson did not have a play at home. So he gets the out at first. A run does score there. Drake Baldwin grounds out to second. You had bases loaded, no outs. And you could not get a ball out of the infield. And you score only 1 run. Baltimore came out the very next inning. They tied the game. And yeah, eventually they ended up winning it in extras. But that was the game. It was a bullpen game. You were already behind the 8 ball here. And of course, the bullpen game wasn't managed right either. Aaron Bummer struck out 5 of the first 9 Orioles he faced. He got tagged on a solo shot from Tyler O'Neill on a sweeper that just ran too far inside, right? But then he walked the number 9 hitter, Cedric Mullins. They left him out there for the top of the order a second time. Bullpen wasn't even up yet. Jordan Westburg gets a 2-run shot. And it's like you're behind the 8 ball right there. Dylan Dodd had a bad 0-2 cutter. He threw it in the middle of the plate versus throwing it for a ball. Seeing if Colton Cowser would chase, and Colton Cowser launched a 2-run homer later. Just bullpen games are already hard enough to win without compounding that by not having the best managerial decisions on how long to run a guy before you try to move on. And of course, Atlanta's trying to get as many innings and outs as possible from each of these guys because they're trying to not have to use everyone in the pen. Snit did say after the game, this is the only real saving grace from that, is that, this is Mark Bowman relayed this from MLB.com. Snit doesn't really think they can do any more bullpen games. Like, they don't really believe they have the depth in the pen, or I guess the tactical decision-making to figure out what to do here. So they're going to have to find somebody out of Gwinnett, out of Columbus, somebody to start the end of this week. The way that everything lines up, Didier Fuentes, Bryce Elder, Spencer Strider, Tuesday through Thursday out in Sacramento versus the Athletics. Friday, July 11th, a series opener in Seattle is where you have to figure something out. If you're not going to do a bullpen game, you got to figure out something there. One start before the All-Star break. And then you go with Grant Holmes on Saturday. And I believe the rotation would give you Fuentes on Sunday on regular rest before the All-Star break. So we'll see what they do. We'll figure that out. Sunday, I mean, Sean Murphy hits a home run in the 9th to get Atlanta on the board, but he hit what I thought was going to be a home run in the 7th, trying to get Trevor Rogers out of the game. It's a center cut, like 1-0 changeup. He hits it to right at 106.1 off the bat, and it hits the absolute top of the wall. Like, not the vertical facade. It hits the horizontal cap, the concrete cap on top of the wall, and bounces back into play. They review it. They rule it a double. And I put out something about, like, if you had a yellow line at the top of the wall, maybe that helps you get a home run. A lot of people are kind of confused as to what I'm talking about. Because the yellow line doesn't necessarily mean anything. If the yellow line stops at the top of the vertical part of the wall, and you can clearly see the ball hits something past the yellow line and then bounces back into play, that is a home run as long as it's in the ground rules for your ballpark. So that's a situation where maybe painting a yellow line up there would have helped. It's funny, the 9th inning home run that he hits the top of the wall but bounces out in center field. So he gets the home run there, but he doesn't get the home run there in the 2nd. And it's just, like, Atlanta couldn't cash in that leadoff double. Ozzie Albies flew out to right. Murphy moved up to third there. Drake Baldwin popped out to the catcher on a slider down. Michael Harris, who did not start on Sunday, we'll get to that in a second, checks in, grounded out to short. And Sunday was a day, Ronald Acuna Jr. got the day off. He's been scuffling a little bit lately. He's also not missed a game since returning from injury. So early start time of 11:35, they gave him the day off. Marcell Ozuna, who I've written plenty about being bad recently, not just not good, bad recently. He's hitting 177 in his last 30 games. And since the injury, which made him miss the Toronto series, he's hitting 224 with a 694 OPS. I have thoughts on what to do with Marcell Ozuna. We'll get to that in the second segment. But he was out, so Drake Baldwin was the DH. Michael Harris got the day off, so Eli White started in center field. Now Harris checked in to pinch hit. Ronald Acuna Jr. ended up checking in to pinch hit for Nick Allen later, and then Harris had the final at-bat of the game. But just frustrating weekend for the Braves. The offense was as much of a problem as we all knew it and thought it was going to be. And, like, in their last 9 losses, they've scored either 1 or no runs in 6 of those. It's not just bad offense. It's atrocious offense. It's literally some of the worst offense in baseball. And at this point, I don't really know what to do to fix it. But what I do know is it is now time to officially shift to 2026. What should the Braves be doing now to make sure that next year is better? We'll break that down next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. I want to take a couple minutes here, a couple segments really, to look forward. Okay? As I said earlier, the Braves are 39-50. They are barely above Washington by Washington's 37-53. They're a couple games ahead of Washington for last place in the NL East. There are only 5 teams with a worse record than the Atlanta Braves as of Sunday night. And one of them, the Athletics, has not played yet, but they can't catch them. So, oh my goodness, it is a bad team right now. And there's some things that they need to do. Obviously hit better. That's just goes without saying. All of this, by the way, is predicated on the assumption that they're gonna be able to figure out what the heck the problem is with the offense, right? None of this matters if they can't figure out what's going on with the offense in general, fix the approach that was changed by Tim Hires, or do whatever they're gonna do, right? None of this matters if they don't do that. But I've got a list of things the Braves need to do to get ready for contention in 2026. Again, assuming that they fix the offensive issues. Okay. So number 1 is changing some playing time. And there's 3 positions that I'm looking at for a change in playing time. 2 of them are connected. Okay. The 2 that are connected: designated hitter and catcher. I just mentioned how bad Marcell Ozuna has been since the hip injury. Again, 224 average, 694 OPS. In the last month, he has one of the worst OPSs in all of baseball. He's been terrible. Okay. I don't know if you're going to be able to actually trade him for anything of value. The first reason is he's playing through injury and not doing it very well. The stats have been bad. The second reason is he has what's called 10-5 rights. I think I've described this on the show before, but just to make sure, a major league player who has spent 10 years in the league and the last 5 with the same team gets what is called 10-5 rights, hence the name. And what it means is that you have the ability to veto any trade that you are involved in. He signed with Atlanta in 2020. So 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24 are your 5 seasons right there. He's been in the league, in the majors, for more than 10 because he debuted in April 2013. His service time entering this year was 11 years and 124 days. So he's fully in the pension. He has the gold card, all of the benefits that come with hitting 10 years of service time. But he also now cannot be traded. So if you can't find somebody to give you anything for him, and if he doesn't want to go ahead and put him on the IL, let him have the hip surgery. The whole thing, this tear in the hip, I think it's a hip labrum. I don't think they ever really told us exactly what it is, but I think it's a hip labrum. As we understand it, it's not going to get better without surgery. We've talked about maybe you rest him for a week or 2 to see if it helps the swelling go down or whatever. But this isn't going to heal without surgery. Go ahead and put him on the IL so he can have the surgery now. Because what that does, 1, it does him a solid because now he is back to healthy enough to pass a physical earlier in the winter so that hopefully he can find a job for 2026 with somebody else, because I don't think Atlanta's going to bring him back. That's a whole different conversation, but I'm pretty sure now they're not going to bring him back. But what this also does is this free ups the DH spot. And a little bit of that DH spot, it would be nice to get to rotate like Ronald Acuna Jr. and Jurickson Profar in the DH spot. I don't want them being your full-time DHs, but it would be nice to be able to give one of these guys a half day without removing them from the lineup completely. right? You go into some of these stretches and you have a ton of games in the heat in July in Atlanta, in the South, where it is incredibly hot. It would be useful to be able to say, hey, Ronnie, we're going to give you a half day. You're going to play, you're still going to lead off, but you're going to DH. And we're going to let you rest your legs a little bit by not having to run around the outfield between innings. Makes a little sense. But most of the playing time at DH, I want to go to a second person or a second position, and that's Drake Baldwin. Okay, we all know, we talked about this in the offseason, Sean Murphy does better the more he gets to play. That's his thing. He gets into a groove. He gets comfortable. He's out there every day. He can make changes and see them pay off almost immediately or analyze how they did, et cetera, et cetera. Drake Baldwin's batting .274 with a .352 on base and a .474 slug. He is one of the better hitters on the team right now as well. Getting them both in the lineup, one, would just be better for the offense in general. But two, I'm thinking about the Rookie of the Year race. A lot of sports books, and I'm not going to name names here because no free pub. If they want to sponsor us, they're more than welcome to do that. But a lot of sports books have Drake Baldwin as a close favorite for Rookie of the Year in the National League over Jacob Misiorowski, the flame-throwing prospect from the Brewers. And we know from 2022, when Michael Harris beat Spencer Strider, we know from 2023, when Corbin Carroll beat Kodai Senga, and we know from 2024 when Paul Skeens beat Jackson Merrill, it takes an absurdly dominant starting pitcher year to beat a position player for Rookie of the Year. The difference here is all those guys that won were everyday players. And actually, they were all outfielders. Corbin Carroll, outfielder. Obviously, Michael Harris, Jackson Merrill, all outfielders. Drake Baldwin is second among qualified rookies in OPS at 826, third in homers with 10, but he doesn't play every day. And Misiorowski does not have Paul Skeens type stats, right? 4 starts, he's 3-1 with a 3.20 ERA. To remind you what Paul Skeens did last year, in 23 starts, he went 11-3 with a 1.96 ERA. He was not only elected to the All-Star game, he was the starter for the All-Star game. I don't think Misiorowski's going to have a year that good. But let's play Drake Baldwin almost every day so we can remove any doubt. You give Sean Murphy 4 starts behind the plate. You give Drake Baldwin 2 starts behind the plate. If it's a full week, then you give him 3. You put Drake Baldwin in at DH 2 or 3 times a week as well. He plays all but 1 day a week. Maybe that's a Ronald Acuna DH day. Maybe that's a Jurickson Profar DH day. Maybe that's one of the days Murphy gets to DH and he gets a full day off every week or whatever. And if you do that, he can cruise mostly to the Rookie of the Year award. And what that does for Atlanta is under the Prospect Promotion Incentive Program, Atlanta would get a pick after the first round in the 2026 MLB draft. I think the Pirates have picked 28 this year, or 29, maybe 28, from Skeens winning Rookie of the Year. Obviously, he gets a full year of service time. Drake Baldwin's going to get that anyway. You're not sending him back down. He's going to get a full year of service time anyway. Might as well get the draft pick for him too. Because as I talked about last week on this show, this team needs an infusion of talent in the minor league system. The hitters are not very good. The pitchers, many of them have underperformed or are just not ready to come up yet. We're going to get to that in the third segment, so hang tight. But you need to play Drake Baldwin as much as possible so that you have a chance to get another high draft pick, because those are just incredibly valuable. The third position that you need to play somebody different, second base. Nacho Alvarez is expected to come back this week if the doctors clear him for the Stripers, for Gwinnett. Give him between now and the All-Star break to play down there. Make sure his timing looks good. After the All-Star break, Nacho Alvarez should be up and playing second base for Atlanta. This is a hard conversation to have with Ozzie Albies. He is the longest tenured player on this club. He debuted the same year as AJ Minter and Max Fried. They've both already left. He is the longest tenured player on the active roster. but his 606 OPS is 6th worst among qualified hitters. And everybody above him at least gives you very good defense. 3 of those are center fielders. One of them is Michael Harris. He's actually worst on OPS in the whole league at 552. One of those guys is a shortstop, and 2 of them are third basemen. So, like, they're giving you above average defense, too. Ozzy is barely average via StatCast at 0 fielding run value, despite playing a much easier defense position of second base. I've been really hard on his defense recently, both in the newsletter and online on social media. It's not as bad as I make it sound, but it's not good. And it's not getting better. He's a pending free agent. It's a $7 million club option for 26, a $7 million club option for 27. The buyout's $4 million. Is it possible somebody gives you an asset for Ozzy Albies at the deadline? Maybe, but I doubt it. And so what you need to do, you need to play Nacho Alvarez at second base so we can figure out, is he a legitimate major league option or not? Because if he's not, and you don't think Ozzy Albies, another year removed from his wrist injury, can recapture any of his previous form, you have to go sign a second baseman in free agency. There's a bunch of dudes that'll be out there. None of them are super awesome, but you got to make a trade or sign a guy or something. But if Nacho Alvarez can show that he can run these good contact, high on base, and not kill you defensively at second base, maybe you can spend a little bit less money at second base, still get a veteran, still get somebody who can step in, make sure it's a utility guy who can cover other positions too, but you don't have to break the bank for a second baseman to replace Ozzy Albies because Nacho Alvarez has a chance of doing it. Those are the 3 playing time changes you need to make between now and the end of the season. Because you need, more than anything else, you need information. You need information about, does Nacho Alvarez work? That's what you need. Side note, I'm not advocating to get rid of Michael Harris. Maybe you put him in Gwinnett, sure. But you need him to play every day because he has 5 more seasons of guaranteed money plus 2 club option years. It's only $9 million a year. There's 4th outfielders that make that, but you need to find out, you need to see if he can fix it. So I'm not advocating replacing Michael Harris, although I'm fine if you want to temporarily put him in Gwinnett. But I am advocating replacing Ozzy Albies because he's probably gone next year anyway. In just a minute, let's talk about some of the trades and the prospect promotions that need to happen between now and the end of the season. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby just kind of going over the changes this organization needs to make for to be prepared, to be better prepared to contend in 2026. If you want all of this stuff in written form, this was today's newsletter over at bravestoday.com. Again, free or paid subscriptions help us out a ton over there. I really do appreciate it. Okay. Like I said, you're probably not going to get anything for Ozuna. He might not let you trade him anyway. You're probably not going to get anything for Ozzy Albies because he's been so bad. Fun fact, he's only 28 years old. He doesn't have 10-5 rights. He entered this year with 7 years and 62 days of service time. He can't block a trade. You can trade him. He can't stop a trade from happening. Are you going to have to explain it to the fan base? Yes. Is it going to be a tough conversation? Yes. But if you get you could make a move from Ozzy, or you could just bench him or whatever. He could go on the IL, whatever you do. Anyway, the deals that are most likely to happen, it's going to be relievers. It's going to be relievers moving, right? Raisel Iglesias, he's been demoted, but he's looked good recently. He could potentially fetch you an asset. Pierce Johnson can step into a setup role for a contender, a 7th inning role, an 8th inning role. He has the rest of this campaign and a club option year. So you have the ability to maybe get a slightly better asset than you would have gotten if you get Pierce Johnson because he has an additional year of team control. Another guy, and I've been championing this guy now for 2 seasons, but I'm going to suggest he could be on the way out as well, since you've seen all these lefty relievers emerge out of the pen and out of Gwinnett, is Aaron Bummer. Ground ball specialist. He's one of the best in baseball at keeping the ball on the ground, keeping it in the yard, the home run on Saturday notwithstanding. He's making $3.5 million this year. His salary next year jumps to $9.5 million. And there's an opportunity there, because he has team control, to find a team that wants or needs a lefty out of the pen, a guy that can get a lot of ground balls. Because here's the thing. It's just the ball gets hit too hard. Like, he gets the ground balls. But if Atlanta has one of, if not the best infield defenses in the league, and you still can't stop these balls from getting through and resulting in runs, then what's the point here? Like, obviously, a ground ball guy is preferable to a fly ball guy when there's runners on base. But, like, again, Atlanta has the best infield defense in the league. And he still runs a consistently lower fielded independent pitching than his ERA, because when he does give up ground balls, sometimes they're very hard and they get through anyway. So, is it worth $9.5 million next year when he's a guy that Snit doesn't really seem to trust and doesn't really want to use in medium and high leverage situations? I don't think it is. And so maybe you can move that deal as well. And so kind of summing up the approach here, trade relievers, not any of the core bats, get longer term value, not short term bullpen filler. I don't want a closer who's a rental. If you're going to get a reliever, make it somebody with team control in 2026. But I think more importantly, I don't want to get guys that are going to take innings away down the stretch, right? Because I want to do some prospect promotions, both starters and relievers. Okay, Spencer Schwallenbach went on the 60-day IL this weekend so they could add Jesse Chavez for depth on Sunday. That means he's not due back till mid-September. Chris Sale can't come back off the IL until I think late August or early September. Ronaldo Lopez, we have no clue when he's going to be back. Okay? AJ Smith-Shawver's not coming back. Rather than trying to get those guys back to make 2 starts or 3 starts the end of September on what could be a 90-loss team, let's promote some pitching prospects. Because remember, we need information. That's what we need. We need to know which prospects we have in Gwinnett and in Columbus could possibly hang in the rotation next year. We need to know, does Nacho Alvarez have what it takes to play second base in the majors, right? So go to Gwinnett. Is Nathan Wiles ready to make a major league start? Is Davis Daniel ready to be a starter in the majors again? Herson Waldrop's new mechanics. How reliable is it? Can he keep them in and get through a major league start? Jackson Stevens has looked very good out of the pen. Is he ready to be a starter? Let's give those guys shots. If the 2025 season is a wash, if we're not going to get back into contention, and it's really hard to see any reason to think that we would, let's give those guys playing time. I want to be more aggressive than that. Blake Burkhalter is in Double-A Columbus. Fastball cutter, gyro slider. He was a reliever in college. He was a very good reliever in college. Let's give him some run. Let's let him make a major league start and see if he's ready. And if he's not, let him go to Gwinnett. Lucas Braun is a kitchen sink guy, right? He doesn't do anything super well, but he throws a bunch of different pitches and can sequence them well. He can get Birmingham Barons out with his sequencing. Can he get Miami Marlins out? Can he get Washington Nationals out? Let's give him a chance to try. Ian Mayhaw looks fantastic on paper in Columbus. 8-1, 196 ERA. Let's let him try it in Atlanta. And when we get done with that, put him in Gwinnett. I think we should find out. This extends to the bullpen too. Lefty Hayden Harris. 5-0, 0.57 ERA between Columbus and Gwinnett. He struck out 46 and 31 in the third innings. Super deceptive fastball. He doesn't have a ton of velocity on it, but you just can't pick it up out of the left-hand side. Give him a chance in the bullpen. Giancarlo Lara has been throwing just the gassiest of gas in, all the way through the system this year. Let's give him a shot. Let's see what he can do at the major league level. He's probably not ready, but you know what would be really good for him? To find out what he needs to work on. Roldy Munoz, you added him to the 40-man roster as a flame-throwing righty, as a reliever. He's been in the minors all year. Let's give him a shot too. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? You put Nacho Alvarez at second base, what's the worst that could happen? The offense could fail to score with runners in scoring position? Guess what? They just did that. You bring up a Burkhalter or a Braun or a Meja or somebody, and they get blown up and leave the bullpen in a bad place? Good news. That's already happened a ton. The games don't matter anymore. Why not? Get the information that you need. Let the kids play. How urgent is it that we jump into this very good starting pitching market next year? How urgent is it that we go find a second baseman? How urgent is it that we address the outfield? Do you need a center fielder to replace Michael Harris? Focus on 2026. How much do we need to find for relief? Can Deisaval Hernandez and Dylan Lee hang as the 8th and 9th inning guys with no Raisel Iglesias, with no Pierce Johnson? Can Hayden Harris set up for you? We don't know. Let's find out. What's the worst that could happen? The Braves could lose a series to a last place team because they just did that. The hard thing here is I think most of us at this point, not everybody, but most of us in Braves country have accepted that this is probably it. That this weekend was probably it for the 2025 Atlanta Braves. Some of you have been there for weeks, right? I felt like it, but I was never fully there until now. But it doesn't matter what we feel. It's what the front office feels. And the question that we have, the question that needs to be answered, is at what point do they pull the plug? Because I think the worst case scenario is for Alex Anthopoulos to go out and give away some sort of prospect in a deal to make this year's version of the Atlanta Braves better. Because no incoming trade, unless you're getting Barry Bonds in his prime, unless you're bringing Hank Aaron up here to the 2020s, no trade that you make is going to fix the problems of the 2025 Atlanta Braves. I don't know if one offseason spending spree could fix the problems of the 2025 Atlanta Braves. But you can get a little bit closer to it if you act now. And my worry is they're going to wait until at least after the draft, if not the trade deadline, or even longer before they start trying it. This has been Braves Today for Monday, July 7th. Do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. We're bringing back the Friday live show this week, so stay tuned for that. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.